Hey, what's up everybody? It's Two over Yelo Autosports. Today I've got a Toyota Supra. These are beautiful cars. I really do like these. I know some people think they're a little bit of a BMW, and they are, but they're beautiful. I think the styling's awesome. But anyway, what I've got in here for today is to do a window tint. Now, I've done these cars in the past. They're pretty simple. One thing about them is they do have the window that does come down a little bit, so we'll have to get this propped up so it's all the way up. But otherwise it's very simple. Two frameless windows and a small bag glass. I'll show you how to remove that third brake light, and I'll show you how I do the side windows as well. So let's get right into it.
Alright, so for locking this window up, you're gonna have just turn this lock mechanism over. You can use just a plastic tool, a pry tool. You know, I would not use my tint tools, as you're gonna need those to be nice and clean for your window tint installation. So trying to find a pry tool, even a screwdriver or something like that. Get that turned over and I'll lock the window in place. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to clean the glass. I'm using stainless steel blades. Always use stainless steel blades. Now you want to be real careful, not apply too much pressure. You're really just trying to run this parallel to the glass and remove any contaminants that might be on the glass. Generally, brand new cars are going to have very little, and you could get away with just a 3M scrub pad, a white scrub pad. I do like to use the razor blade at times, and I think it's obviously necessary when you got to remove stickers. So just something to keep in mind. Just be careful as you're doing this. You don't want to nick the car. You don't want to nick the gaskets. Just be very controlled with the way you hold your blade, and a lot of that will come over time as you get more and more used to doing this. Like I said earlier, when you get over to the sticker, you can now take the sticker off, as it will not look pretty under the tint. Now, I use a razor blade for about 2 windows maximum, and then I'll switch to razor blades. So always make sure you have clean stainless steel blades on hand that are just defect free and that are nice, clean, and gonna do their job properly the first time. I do like to use my razor blade and run it across the gasket sometimes, just to scrape anything that would be back there. Just be mindful, do not cut the gasket. Once again, we do not want to damage clients' vehicles. I'm going to just mist the outside of the window here, and I find that the 20-inch wide roll is the most convenient for installing side glass, especially if you're a freehand cutter. It's just going to be easier. Now, what you can also do is you can buy a 40-inch wide roll and split it down the middle, which will give you 20 and 20, essentially the same thing that I'm holding in my hand here. The price for most places, you will want to call, make sure and ask how much the 40-inch wide roll costs versus the 20-inch wide roll, and a lot of times you'll find it's actually the very same price. So you might as well equip yourself with some 20-inch and then some 40-inch rolls. So I'm cutting some of the excess film here. Now keep in mind I'm keeping that to the side. I'm not throwing that away, and the reason for that is if you look at the quarter rear windows here that we got, they're really small. So you're going to be able to cover that with just the leftover film, and as you can see there, that's what I was doing, just sizing it up. But that's a way where you're not going to have to cut more film out of your roll and essentially get the most out of your material. I'm locking the film in place. Now for the bottom edge, I will usually trim a little bit of the film, and this is not really necessary. For me, I just like to have less loose film. I find that it's just easier to make my lines. So as you see here, I'm doing my lines using a marker. I am marking the side where I'm going to have to make that cut, and then I'm going to be marking my bottom where I'm going to be making that cut. I like to use a little water to lubricate the top. So your blades here should be nice and fresh, because this cut is very crucial to do right the first time. One straight swipe all the way across, come back down here, poke a hole into your film, and then one straight swipe up. Now I'm going over to my cut board. All I'm doing here is I'm going to just trim the edges and get everything nice and straight, as well as rounding my corner. Rounding the corners is very crucial in helping the glass and the film when they are together. You don't want the film to come down and catch a gasket, and with the rounded edge, actually it does a good job helping you not catch a gasket, which the last thing you want to do is have it catch a gasket and have the client come back for you to have to redo it. Now realistically, will it happen? Yes, it will. It's just the way it goes with the window tinting, but everything you can do to avoid it is what you want to do. Now I'm just freehand cutting the bottom edge here. This is the long edge that I did for the bottom of the glass. I'm leaving about 1/8 of an inch. The reason I'm doing that is I just want to make sure there's enough film that's going to hide behind the gasket so that from the outside we never see any visible light from underneath. Making that side cut here. Now keep in mind, if you pay attention here, I do stop a little bit short and I'm gonna round the edge. The reason for that is I'm matching the gasket the way it is exactly on the vehicle. If you were gonna cut straight up on that, you would have a light gap, a little triangle light gap near the front. So you wanna make sure you cover all the window. Once again, I'm rounding my corner. Now, one thing I do want to talk about is blade control. Blade control is one thing that you're going to have to learn over time. It is a muscle memory thing. The ability to hold your razor blade in a clean manner to make your cuts efficient, as well as get it to cut the first time. There's definitely an angle to the way in which you hold your blade. So just know that will come over time. So the next thing we got to do is we got to shrink this window tint. The reason I'm shrinking it is just the glass has a little bit of curve to it. Now there are some window tinters that swear by not having to shrink their film and just simply using the adhesive that's on the window tint to hold against the glass. And honestly, I believe that it probably does work for a lot of them. The reason for me is I've tried that method for me in the past, and I found that even when I was doing it that way without shrinking, and I was just putting all my hopes and dreams on the adhesive doing the job for me, I would still have fingers come up from the inside. Now you can certainly shrink your fingers on the inside once the film is already in there, but I just rather do it when I'm already out here, when I've already got the tint facing me on the outside. I want to make a perfect 100% mold of the glass so that when I install it, I know I'll never have to deal with those fingers again. Now another thing you want to be real careful of here is when you're using your heat gun. I am using my heat gun on high. I want to have maximum power to shrink those fingers as quickly as possible. Now if you're just beginning, you can definitely use a lower heat setting. It will just take a little bit longer. However, the low heat setting is a nice thing to do if you're a beginner, as you may not risk burning that gasket. I will tell you from experience, I have burned those gaskets before, especially using high heat. When you burn a gasket and you have to call your client, trust me, it's just not something you want to do. It's going to cost you a bunch of money to have to replace that, and just having to make that phone call just sucks. It's not something you want to do. So just make sure you shrink all those fingers nicely. Always be mindful of where your heat gun's pointing at. Alright, so now I do one more sweep, one more cleaning before I'm going to install the film, okay? So just spray my solution on here and just squeegee it out. In the time that I was shrinking and doing all the other things, there's always a chance that contaminants got behind or onto the glass. So you want to do nice one final cleaning before you're going to actually install your film. Sweep your gaskets and apply another solution. Spray down into the gasket. Always want to make sure that you spray enough solution too. It depends how hot or cold your shop can be, but sometimes if you don't put enough solution, you're going to have dry spots. So you want to have 100% coverage of the entire glass. Remove my liner, throw some solution on the film itself, and I'm always going to line the bottom edge first. Now I try to get that bottom edge as low as possible, right next to the gasket. The reason I do that is I want to have the majority of the film already on the glass, about 95% if I can help it. As you can see here above the glass, I have a little bit of film exposed. That's always room for contaminants. And so I try to work quickly to just have all the film laid against the glass so that there's no more contaminants that can come in between the film and the glass itself. Align your film correctly. I like to leave a tiny little light gap near the top, just because I do not want that to touch any gasket, and I do not want it to peel back on me. Now what you can also do is called the like a edgeless method, which is you actually go a little bit above it, trim that, and then you can use a file to kind of make it look like it's a factory tint. That's another way, but if you do that, I suggest you charge probably a little bit more. So the initial squeegee was just to get some of the water out, which still gave me the opportunity to shift my film, and then I locked it in place. Now I'm going over to the quarter glass. Remember, this is a scrap film that we had earlier from the windows that I cut. So I'm using 2 of them in this case. It is the same glass from the driver and passenger side both. So you can just use 2 film, flip them inside out, and then do the cut one time. That'll give you 2 shapes for both sides glass in one cut, and that's going to save you time, which every minute you can save on an entire job over time, that is where your money's really made. Fresh new blades, make sure you crack fresh new blades, stainless steel blades, and then go ahead and make your cut. Now, one thing with window tinting is a lot of times I see new individuals who are getting into tinting, they're afraid to kind of move and shift their bodies. Don't be afraid to shift your body however you need to. It is kind of tricky. Sometimes you have to make cuts by just bending it at the waist or even turning your head. Now, you always want to keep good ergonomics, obviously. That's going to keep you tinting longer. But don't be afraid that sometimes you do have to turn to certain angles in order to make good cuts. Slap my film in there, use my small squeegee in this case, and just get all that water out. Now, to remove the rear brake light, it's pretty simple. Use a prying tool, pop this panel cover out first, and then you have the brake light that's right here. Now, it's got 2 sliding lock-in mechanisms on both sides, your left and your right. So you just push them outward, and that'll free your light. Now, it's just got the electrical attachment. Just make sure you get that unplugged, and then you're good to go. Okay, so now you can grab your dryer sheet, mist the sheet with some water, rub it around your hands, and then now you can put it all in the glass. Now, if you don't put too much water on there, it'll dry pretty quickly. If not, you're gonna have to probably either use a heat gun and let it dry more, or just walk away for a little bit and then come back. So using my 40-inch roll here, measuring side to side. Now this is a small window, so you're actually gonna have a lot of extra film, which you can either keep for yourself in the future if you've ever got some quarter windows that you're gonna need to do, or just toss it away. I find that every time I keep scraps, I always have the intention of using it. Turns out I never use it. So anyway, I like to use a H pattern in most cases, but seeing that this is such a small window, I just went with a tack down the center line. And as you can see in this case, I actually just crumpled it and threw it away. So there you go. So when cutting this excess film, I try not to always cut on the glass. Now, as always, rule of thumb, brand new razor blade, crack a new tip every time. Now, I like to use a hard card. There's many ways you can do this. You can use your hand, gloved hand, whatever you want to do. The way that I like to do it is with a hard card. I feel that it gets the tightest match to the glass. It really forms 100% to be the same fit as the shape of the glass. Now you'll notice I tend to run my fingers down the film just to kind of dress new fingers. It kind of makes it easier to shrink. It also makes the fingers a little smaller. So sometimes I'll use my fingers and just put them on the glass and kind of hold the fingers down as I heat the glass. For the heat gun, I always like to use it on high. I actually have a different heat gun that I use as well that actually has more heat and throws out more heat, which is usually my preferred heat gun. In this case, I just happen to grab this yellow one, but preferably I like the one that throws out the most heat possible in the fastest time possible. It is a little bit more dangerous. You do run the risk to burn things a little bit quicker, but with experience, you can really read the film, and that actually works in your favor so that you can just get the job done quickly. White scrubby pads from 3M is what I'm using to clean the inside of this glass. I'm gonna just squeegee it. So apply my solution once again in preparation for bringing the film to the inside. So with this car, just leave the trunk hatch halfway open. Remove your liner. Mist. And then you're gonna pull the whole sheet off and then let that trunk spring back up. Well, in this case it didn't spring, so I gotta open it up myself. Pretty easy, small glass like I said, so just walk it in, line up all your edges, lightly move the film at the top where you need it, and then just dress it with your fingers, and it settles right in place.
I'm not sorry, 'cause that was intentional.
I'm using my lighter squeegee in this case and just kind of pushing all the water out. Sometimes I like to use the softer blade first to kind of just massage the film into place, and then I'll come back with the Blue Max or the Orange Crush, whichever one you're using as your final squeegee. It depends. Some days I'll just go straight to the Blue Max or the Orange Crush right off the bat, but sometimes I like using the softer one to kind of just dress it up so it looks a little bit cleaner. That way when I come with the hard squeegee, I don't run the risk of catching any film. Now, it usually doesn't happen even if you were to start right off the bat with a Blue Max, but I like to switch it up a little bit every now and then.
I noticed it driven by jealousy. But my soul is nothing you own. No. I want us to love unconditionally. It means that I'm not yours alone. No.
Alright, so there it is, 2020 Toyota Supra, all done and completed. Now, one thing I do like to do on these vehicles is I'm going to let these sit for a little bit. Frameless windows, I'm always a little bit more cautious with. I want them to dry really well before I'm going to actually let them slide down. Now, to get these doors to reset and go back down, generally you just have to pull the door handle either from this side or from the interior. So we'll do that. We're just going to let it dry for a little bit. If you get any questions, please make sure you leave them in the comments below. Any questions, anything you got, please just ask. And I hope that you learned something. As you can see, this is not the toughest vehicle out there. It can be a little bit intimidating since we don't see too many of these sometimes. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the content and I hope you learned something. Peace out.